The Ratmen are small humanoids, closely related to rats. Individually weak, they rely on large numbers of warriors, growth serum-injected beasts, and inventive war machines. The Ratmen first came from the sewer systems beneath the old Empire's great cities, but were viewed as abominations by the humans and quickly driven out. Faced with many dangers and few friends, the Ratmen have become fanatical warriors and cunning tacticians, often serving as a buffer to the society that drove them out.
Hey everybody, it's War Boss Fitz, and today we are going to go over the Ratmen. Make sure you like and subscribe, and vote on the community page to choose which army we're going to go over next. But today, with the Ratmen, we're going to start off with special rules. We're going to go over the stuff that's not the command abilities first. So, Bladed Wheels, this model's impact attacks get AP 1. Expert Thrower, this model ignores penalties from shooting after moving when using indirect weapons. Great Bell, once per activation before attacking, roll 2 dice for each 2+. One enemy unit within 6 takes 3 hits with AP 1. Holy Statue, once per activation, picks 2 friendly units within 6, which get +1 to hit next time they fight in melee. Resistance, when taking a wound, roll a die, and on a 6 it is ignored. And if this wound was from a spell, then it is ignored on a 4. And Smoke Bombs, enemies get -1 to hit when attacking units where all models have this rule. Now we'll go over them again when we get to the units that have those rules. As far as the command rules, we'll go over them when we get to the characters. We'll touch on the spells real quick. Cracks, target enemy unit within 12 takes 2 hits with AP 2. Filth, target 2 friendly units within 18 to get poisoned next time they fight in melee. Lightning, target enemy unit within 9 and it takes 1 hit with AP 4 and Deadly 3. Sickness, target 2 enemy units within 12 to get -1 to hit next time they shoot. Frenzy, target 2 friendly units within 12 to get +3 next time they advance or +6 next time they rush and charge. And Pestilence, target enemy unit within 18 and it takes 1 hit with Blast at 9. Now if we're going to sum up this army, what it's going to be is, this is an army that can cover all of your bases. You've got cheap infantry, which are crap that you could throw at the enemy, but then you have very specialized, very elite stuff, and that's what's going to do your damage. So let's get into the units. We're going to start with the Militia, 10 of them for 45 points. Remember I said cheap, 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 cheap. But they're quality 6 with defensive 6 with 1 attack apiece and 1 ranged attack at 12 inches. They have no upgrades because again, this is cheap, 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 cheap. Now for something a little bit better, we have 10 warriors for 65 points, quality 5, defensive 5, again with only 1 attack with their hand weapons. And you can replace those hand weapons with halberds and spears. You can also put in a weapon team. They got the heavy drill, the death roller, the flamethrower, the toxin mortar, the Gatling gun. We'll go into those in more detail because you can take those on their own. We'll do it when they pop up. And then a sergeant, musician, and a standard bearer. I cut off the standard bearer. You guys know what it is. Sergeant +1 to hit, musician +1 inch of movement, and a standard bearer +1 to quality on morale tests. These are going to be like the stock standard stuff in other armies when it comes to warrior types. These are your infantry filler. And we're on to the weapon teams. Quality 5 and defensive 5. You get 3 of them for 125 points. 3 attacks with the crew and 3 Gatling guns, 4 shots at 18 inches with AP 1, and all of them are toughness 3. Now the Gatling guns, pretty good for what they are. AP 1 shooting's hard to come by in Age of Fantasy, and this one starts with it. But then you can switch out for a Death Roller, which is 3 attacks apiece with Lance and AP 2. Lance means that you're going to get +2 AP on the charge, so whenever you ram into somebody with the Death Rollers, it's going to be 3 attacks at AP 4, which is, you're going to kill what you run into. The only downside is going to be the quality of 5. You can do a Heavy Drill, 1 attack at AP 4 with Deadly 3. It's going to be good to take out heavier units, but again, quality of 5. Flamethrower, 12 inches, 1 shot, blast 3, reliable. So it's going to hit on a 2 because a flamethrower really doesn't care how accurate you are. You just got to get in the same general vicinity. And then the Toxin Mortar, 24 inches, 1 attack, blast 3, poison, and indirect. So if you want to hide your rats, fire over terrain, this is a real nice option. Alright, we're getting more specialized here. 5 monks for 45 points, quality 5 and defensive 5. They have 5 sensor flails, 1 attack apiece with AP 1 and poison, and they are also furious. So Furious means if you roll a 6 to hit when you charge, you automatically get another hit. And you can switch out the sensor flails for a dual hand weapon. You lose the AP and the poison for an extra attack. I don't know why you would want to do that. And you can also give them a sergeant musician and a banner. So again, we're just taking little incremental steps up the ladder of the quality of your troops and weapons. Night Scouts, 5 of them for 85 points, quality 4, so we're getting a little better, and defensive 5. They all have dual hand weapons with 2 attacks apiece. They have Scout, Stealth, and Strider, which means they can move 12 inches before the first turn. They're -1 to hit if you're shooting at them from outside of 12, and they don't care about difficult terrain. With the Strider rule, they just ignore it. They're going to be able to get where you want them to go, but with only 2 attacks apiece, no AP options, and a maximum size of 10, unless you can attach a character who also has Scout and Strider. Don't expect much from these guys. These guys are going to pop up, do stabby stab, then probably get blasted. So you do have the option to give them smoke bombs, which means they're going to be -1 to hit in close combat, which if you want to rely on your Night Scouts being there for longer, it's worth looking into. But at that point, you're paying 20 points a piece. That would make them 100 points for 5. That's up to you, depending on the size of the game. And if you want to shave some points here and there, that might be the way. That might be the place to do it. And you can also give them all throwing weapons for 1 attack at 12 inches. With the mobility of these guys, it might be worth it. But you're going to be getting a whole lot more mileage out of the close combat weapons. You can replace all the dual hand weapons with just regular hand weapon and a bow. That would probably be worth more than a throwing weapon, in my opinion, because that way you can get their stealth involved. They're going to be outside of 12 of whatever they're shooting at because you have a range of 24. Storm Veterans, we're taking another incremental step up in the quality of these units. 5 of them for 70 points, quality 4, defensive 4. They come with a heavy halberd, which is 1 attack at AP1 and rending, and they are also fearless. Fearless means if you fail a morale test, roll a d6, and on a 4+, you don't fail the morale test. Now you can swap out the heavy halberd with a heavy great weapon. You lose the rending, but you get AP3 constantly, which in my opinion would be better unless you're fighting somebody who has regeneration, and in that case, it's worth thinking about there. You can give them a sergeant musician or a banner. Grenadiers, now we're getting into the more specialized stuff. 5 of them for 60 points, quality 5, defensive 5, 1 attack and close combat apiece, but they all have fire bombs. At 12 inches, 1 attack and AP1 indirect, and they have the expert thrower rule, which means you ignore the penalties for shooting after moving when using this indirect weapon. So you can move and scoot with these guys and throw your bombs. You can replace the fire bombs with toxin bombs, which are 1 attack apiece. Instead of AP1, you get poison. Now, it'd be worth having these guys moving up behind the battle line whenever the really cheap militia hits. These guys are just going to be there lobbing grenades over the top of them. Along with having lots of troops, the rats also have some dirty tricks. So we're going to go to the snipers. Quality 5, defensive 4 for 135 points. 1 attack apiece in close combat, but they have 3 sniper rifles, 1 attack at 30 inches with AP1 and sniper. And these guys are slow because, as you can see, they're hauling around a lot of equipment. Now, the sniper rule means that you're going to hit on a 2 and you can choose your target. So these guys, I think, in the rat army is a must. They're going to be able to pick out all the characters in your enemy army that's giving you problems. Somebody giving them +1 AP, kill them. Giving somebody regeneration, pop him in particular. The sniper unit for the rats is going to be a good option for 135 points. Set them in the back of the board, keep them safe, and just use that to keep the enemy characters' heads down. Giant rats, 5 of them for 45 points. What's a rat army without having rats in it? Quality 5 and defensive 5. Rending claws for 1 attack apiece, and rending, fast, and strider. These guys, unironically, are better than your militia. You can upgrade them with a Rat Master to make them fearless, which for 50 points for a fearless 5 giant rats, it might be worth it, depending on what you're fighting against. If you're fighting against somebody who has very high AP and low number of attacks, definitely. With a defensive 5, these guys won't be able to stand up to multiple attacks, but if it's somebody who has like heavy, great weapons, 1 attack with AP3, throw some giant rats at them. Be like, here, play with these. Oh, they're fearless, so they're not going away either. You're going to deal with this for a few turns. plus being fast and Strider, being able to ignore terrain and just throwing these at the enemy probably turn 1 or turn 2, it'd be worth it. I wouldn't invest anything else in them. I would definitely not put a character with them. Their whole point is to run forward and disrupt the enemy. Where the giant rats were more of an attacking force, the rat swarms seem to be more of a defensive force. 3 of them for 55 points, quality 6, defense is 6, 4 attacks apiece, ambush, fast, furious, strider, and toughness 3. Now this is the first unit we've found that has ambush on it innately, so ambush means that any turn after turn number 1, so starting on turn number 2, you could pop up on the board outside of 9 inches from the enemy. With these, I probably wouldn't do it. These guys are going to be more of a blocking force for me. Especially if you give them Fearless. Well, in that case, I would definitely give them Fearless for an extra 10 points. Just being able to clog up parts of the board to keep the enemy out of it, where they have to chew through 9 wounds of Fearless rats. That would be worth it to me. Now I'll get into some beefy boys. Rat Ogres, 3 of them for 120 points. Quality 4, defensive 4. 3 attacks apiece with Rending, Furious, and Toughness 3. And you can switch out the Rending Claws for a great weapon, which gives them 3 attacks with AP 2, and you can give them a Rat Master that gives them Fearless. Rat Ogres are going to be one of the spots where you start to want to take a character with them to buff their abilities or increase their utility. And we'll go over that when we get to the characters. Next, we're on to Storm Ogres, 3 of them for 220 points, quality 3, defensive 3. These are beefy boys with good gear, high defense, good quality. They start out with 3 Drill Fists, 1 attack at AP 4, deadly 3, Fearless, Furious, and Toughness 3. If you need someone to go after the enemy's heavy troops, Storm Ogres with Drill Fists would probably be the way to go. Hitting on a 3, enemy's not going to get an armor save. Deadly 3 is going to kill the big heavy stuff. That'd be a good use for them. But also, you can change out what you want them to do with the weapons you can give them. So they can come with a Flame Fist, so they get a Flamethrower, along with keeping 2 of their attacks for free. It's just a side grade. Moving forward, burninating stuff. You can give them all Shock Fists for 4 attacks, AP 1 and Rending. A Roller Fist, 4 attacks with Lance at AP 2. Remember, if you charge with a Lance and AP on top of it, it becomes AP 4. So that's definitely a, we're going to smash stuff in the face. Mortar Fist, in case you want them to sit back if you have a gun line going. 24 inches, 1 shot, blast 3, indirect, and poison. Or you can go for the one on the screen, and personally my favorite, because who doesn't like rats with Gatling guns? A Gatling Fist, 18 inches, 4 shots apiece at AP 1. Just because rats with miniguns strapped to their arms is hilarious to me. So of course you know I put it in the army list for today's battle report. Now we're on to the bigger stuff. Giant Beast, 270 points, quality 4, defensive 3, 10 attacks with its claws, 4 attacks with Stomp at AP 1, Fear 2, which means it always counts as causing 2 wounds when it comes to close combat results. Regeneration, which means if it takes a wound on a 5-up, it ignores the wound. And Toughness 12, so there's a lot of beef to eat through. So its 2 options are Captain Rider, which means it turns into a character in its own right, which gives it strength in numbers, where it can choose 2 friendly units within 12 to get +1 to their next morale test roll. Or it can get Rat Master, where it gets Fearless, and then Resistance, which gives it, on top of the regeneration, it gives it a 3rd roll to try to stop damage coming through after you fail your armor save and your regeneration. Then you get another save that saves on a 6, or a 4 if it's a spell. Even though it's only defensive 3, this guy with Rat Master becomes very, very tanky, but then of course it becomes 340 points to start with. Giant Rat Ogre, 305 points. Quality 3, defensive 3, dual heavy fists, 8 attacks at AP 1, Stomp, 4 attacks AP 1, Fear 2, Fearless, Furious, Toughness 12. You can upgrade it with a Priest Rider, which gives it Caster 2, that allows it to throw spells around, and you can also give it a Twin Fist Flamer, 12 inches, 2 shots, blast 3, reliable. So just a big beefy thing marching across the board with a little dude on top of it yelling out stuff. It's Master Blaster, except for rats. Next, we come to the Blessed Platform, 130 points, quality 4, defensive 3, 2 attacks, and then a Rat Ogre champion with 4 attacks at AP 2. Fear 1, Fearless, Furious, and Toughness 6. Now you replace the Rat Ogre champion with a giant sensor. You remove the AP 2 of those 4 attacks, and they get poison. You can put on a Great Bell, which means you roll 2 dice, and on a 2+, enemies within 6 inches takes 3 hits with AP 1. You can give it a Holy Statue, which that means 2 friendly units within 6 get +1 to hit. And you could also give it the Preacher upgrade, which means that it gets the additional 6 to ignore a wound after everything. Now it's relatively cheap, and for 140 or 145 points, giving a Holy Statue and sticking it right in the middle of your battle line, handing out +1 to hit, especially if you got Storm Veterans or Monks or even just Warriors out there, I'd say it's worth it. As an entirely buffing model, yeah. Do a Blessed Platform with the Holy Statue. The Great Death Roller. Look at that thing. You know this is in my army list because I'm an orc at heart. Great Death Roller, 135, quality 5, defensive 3, twin Gatling gun, 18 inches, 6 shots at AP 1, fast, fear, fearless, impact 2, and toughness 6. And the only option you get is you can rip off the Gatling gun and you can give it bladed wheels, which gives it 6 more impact hits. And the bladed wheels means that all those impact hits gets AP 1. So it would be 8 impact hits that hit on a 2 at AP 1. Worth it. I have a feeling you'd get more bang for your buck running the thing with the impact hits over the Gatling gun. The Gatling gun, it'll keep you safer because you're further away, but this thing wants to live in close combat. Just get it in there. Ratmen Artillery, 75 points base, so it's pretty cheap. Quality 5, defensive 5, 3 attacks with the crew. Comes with a Toxin Catapult, 30 inches, 2 shots, blast 3, indirect with poison. It is entrenched, so that means if it doesn't move, the enemy gets -2 to shoot it. It is immobile, so it can't move anyways. And toughness 3. And you can swap out the Toxin Catapult with a heavy cannon, 30 inches, 2 shots, AP 2, deadly 3. Now this guy with only defensive 5 and toughness 3, I would watch out for ambushers going around your backside taking it out because it is relatively fragile for what it is. But this guy sitting on your back line, lobbing shells with the Toxin Catapult over top of terrain, out of line of sight, is great. It's sneaky, it's underhanded, it's what the rats like to do. Or if you're fighting against somebody who has like ogres or giants, the heavy cannon for only 80 points, that would be worth it. Then like every good army, we got a Titan. 720 points, quality 2, defensive 2, 6 attacks at AP 2, and then 12 attacks with rending. Caster 4, fear of 3, Strider, toughness 18. Now as far as the other Titans we've gone over, this one doesn't really inspire much fear. It's really good in close combat, but its only ranged options are spells, which, I mean, they got some good spells, but like the Vinci Titan we saw that is just covered in guns, they can reach out and touch anybody. Or even the undead one that can ambush and jump on you from the back. I mean, this one you can get for 720 points, which honestly in a lower point game would probably be worth it. Well, lower point when it comes to Titans, so you're looking at like 3,000 points. Throwing one of these out there isn't out of the question. Also for a relatively point cheap intimidation piece. Now for characters, we're going to start off with the Battle Master, 50 points, quality 4, defensive 4, with a heavy hand weapon, 3 attacks at AP 1, fearless, hero, toughness 3. And you can give him the Assassin for takedown, Engineer for tunnel drill, Warlock for artificer, Army standard bearer for fear 3, and Captain for strength in numbers. You can swap out a heavy hand weapon for dual hand weapons, heavy halberd, heavy great weapon, heavy spear. You can give him the Warning Cry with a pet giant rat to make sure nobody ambushes within 12 of him. You can also put him on top of a Rat Ogre, a War Throne, or a Great Beast. Now the only thing that's going to throw you to where you have to be on your own is the Great Beast, because that puts you at toughness 9. And after toughness 6, you can't go in a unit. So let's look over those upgrades at the very top. So take down with an assassin. This assassin's kind of the throwaway one. That's the one if you got points left and you want to make them special, put it on there. I wouldn't write home about it. But the rest of the stuff is where the fun comes in. Tunnel drill. You know those rat ogres? The beefy boys that you gave the heavy great weapons to, which you're going to get a lot of attacks with a lot of AP. Guess what? They can ambush now. Those guys popping up in the enemy's backfield is hilarious. Or you could also take it on a huge squad of militia if you want to throw them out there and clog the enemy up. Be like, surprise, deal with all this. Oh, rats are sneaky. You can have all kinds of fun popping up in weird spots. And then the next big one is Artificer, where it gives whatever unit he's attached to AP +1. So those great big units of warriors or militia all of a sudden now having AP on them, it could turn the tide in many, many fights. Then we come to the champion, 25 points base. Quality 5, defensive 5 with 3 attacks, the hand weapon, hero, and toughness 3. This guy has tunnel drill and artificer, so if you want to do what you could do with the battle master, just cheaper, take this guy. If the focus isn't going to be on him, it's going to be on the squad he's with. This would be the guy to take just because he's cheaper to start off with. And this is where you can get a priest or a master priest where you can start casting spells. Battle Master focuses on combat, champion focuses on everything else. He also has the options with the weapons to put him wherever he needs to go. He can get a sensor foil to go with the monks, dual hand weapons to go with warriors, great weapons to run around with your storm veterans with upgraded stuff, or he can run and hang with the rat ogres. Halberds, spears, equip him with where he's going. You can also get a toxin gun, 18 inches, 2-shot with poison. He can get a rocket launcher, 1 shot at 18 inches with blast 3 and indirect. Nothing like a rat with a rocket launcher in his pocket. You can also attach him with a sniper rifle to attach him to the sniper squads. And you can also give him the pet giant rat to give him warning cry, which means that no one can ambush within 12 inches of him. Now, that doesn't mean 12 inches of the squad. That's 12 inches of this guy specifically. So if you have a larger squad, warning cry, it wouldn't even be worth it because somebody's going to get within 9 inches of one of your dudes regardless. So that's an overview of the Ratmen. Now, again, this army it has a whole bunch of different units that do a whole bunch of different things. You can make a rat gun line with snipers and Gatling weapon teams and storm ogres, all behind different squads of militias to be used as speed bumps with catapults flinging out toxic stuff. You could have a horde army where you have warriors, storm veterans, monks, grenadiers running forward, charging the enemy, overwhelming them in numbers. You could go really heavy on stuff and you could take ogres, storm ogres, giant beasts, giant ogres, death rollers, artillery, even a god titan. This is one of those armies where if you tell your opponent you're playing Ratmen, you essentially told him nothing because your army can operate in many, many different ways. So this is one of those, if you're new to the one-page rules Age of Fantasy, this would be one to go with because even if you build your first army, let's face it, everybody's first army doesn't do what they want it to do. With this one, with little tweaks, and expanding your collection a little bit, you can have this army do something completely different in every game. Let's go take a look at the army we've built for this week, and then go on to our battle report where the rats are going to try to chew on the bones of the mummified undead. Today in the garage, we are going to have the Ratmen fight off against the winners of last week, the Mummified Undead. The Ratman list today has a few dirty tricks in it, just like I was explaining before. The plan with this list is going to be use the artillery pieces and the militia to hold static objectives while sending forward the storm veterans and the death rollers as a shock force. The snipers and the storm ogres are going to lay down some fire support, while the rat ogres and their champion pop up where they're going to do the most amount of damage. The army has 2 squads of 10 militia. A champion with 10 storm veterans. The champion's thing for this squad is he gives them +1 AP. We've got a weapon squad of 3 death rollers. A unit of 3 snipers. 3 Storm Ogres armed with the Gatling fists. The Great Death Roller, for this one, ignore the Gatling guns. I printed it with it just because I thought they were cool. 2 Ratmen artillery pieces. And this army's big dirty trick, we've got 6 Rat Ogres with a Battle Master who's going to give all of the Rat Ogres ambush. This week's scenario, we are going to do a modification of the scenario that came out for free for Tier 1 Patreons for the Age of Fantasy Skirmish. In this scenario, the board is split up into 4 quadrants. Armies deploy in opposite quadrants of each other. You get 1 victory point if you destroy half of the units in the enemy army, and you get 1 victory point for every table quarter that you are in uncontested at the end of the game. We're going to roll some dice and see who goes first. Looks like the mummified undead are going to get turn number 1. Opening move of the game, the Guardian statues decide to move into the quadrant next to them that has nobody else in them, daring the Ratmen to come and get them. The Ratmen decide to start off with a bang, launching their poisoned catapult shots into the Skeleton Warrior squad.
Spread pestilence!
They're able to hit once and take out 2 of the skeletons. Unbothered by the artillery fire, the mummified undead send their mummies up the opposite flank of the board. Determined to stay out of charge range,
Doom wheel!
the Great Death Roller moves outside of 12 inches from the God statue. The Great Snake Riders move forward in anticipation for their charge next turn. Another 2 poison catapult shots. This time, both shots miss their target, landing somewhere in the village. The God statue moves forward, this time remembering that he can cast spells. He casts protection on himself, giving him +1 defense until next turn. The Storm Veterans move out of the cluster that is the Ratmen deployment zone.
Prepare to die!
The Skeleton Warriors also make their way through the buildings towards the Ratmen. The snipers clamber up the side of the hill and they fire at the Skeleton Warrior squad, aiming for the Royal Champion inside of it. All 3 shots hit. All 3 armor saves fail. The Royal Champion is taken out, and the Skeleton Warriors go from quality of 3 back down to a quality of 5. The leader and the Royal Guard run to try to catch up with the God statue. The Storm Ogres move forward, and they fire their Gatling fists at the God statue. The God statue with the extra protection is able to hold up to the Gatling fists, only suffering 1 wound. The Skull Catapult fires at the Storm Veterans and is able to take out 2 of them. The Mini Death Rollers decide they're going to try their luck with the God statue and charge into it.
Die, die, die!
Assuming that their Lance ability, making them AP4, is going to make the major difference in the fight. They're able to get 4 hits, out of which only 2 go through.
More power, yes!
The God statue casts its gaze down upon these rats riding these bicycles, rears its arm back, and ends the existence of all 3 weapons teams, causing 9 wounds. The second Skull Catapult fires. It is also able to take out 1 Storm Veteran. Last 2 activations of the turn are for the Ratmen, and it's just the 2 militia squads are going to move forward just over the line. That means they move to another table quarter. Beginning of turn 2, the God statue is going to activate first. It charges into the Great Death Roller and casts Smiting, giving the Skeleton Warriors and the Great Snake Riders +2 to hit in close combat this turn. The God statue then smashes into the Great Death Roller. With its large number of attacks, it is able to do 5 damage, taking the Death Roller down to 1 wound remaining. The Death Roller has no close combat attacks, but it passes its morale test. The Death Roller, seeing the writing on the wall, decides to charge into the Royal Guard and the leader.
Doom wheel!
With its 8 impact hits, it is able to take out 3 of the Royal Guard. The Royal Guard then attack back, taking that last wound off of the Great Roller. The Skeleton Warriors charge into the Storm Veterans. The narrow alleyway, meaning that they are not able to bring the full weight of all of their warriors to bear. They swing their swords into the Storm Veterans and they're able to take out 4 of them. The Storm Veterans attack back, able to take out 2 skeletons, and the Storm Veterans pass their morale test. The Rat Ogres and their champion charge into the Great Snakes. With their huge numbers of attacks and AP2, the Rat Ogres obliterate the Great Snakes. The Guardian statues move forward towards the militia in the far corner of the table quarter they're in. The Storm Ogres move forward and open fire on the God statue with their Gatling fists. This time, without his protection spell, the God statue takes 6 wounds, then passes his morale test. The mummies go deeper into the table quarter that they're aiming for, walking past the Rat Ogres, trying to bait the Rat Ogres to keep them out of the table quarter with the catapults in it. The Ratmen militia move forward to be in range of their sling weapons and shoot them off at the Guardian statues. One of the stones hit, and the Guardian statue did nothing more than raise an eyebrow at the militia. The Royal Guard and the leader charge into the back of the Storm Veterans. Because they already fought this turn, they're only hitting on a 6, but they're still able to kill off one of the Storm Veterans, who are able to kill nobody in return, but the Storm Veterans pass their morale test. The snipers attempt to take the final wounds off of the God statue. All 3 of the shots hit, but the God statue's armor stops all of it. The first skull catapult fires at the sniper teams. It is able to kill 1. The second unit of Ratmen militia run behind the longhouse, thinking they might intercept the mummies. The second skull catapult fires at the same sniper squad. This one is able to remove the last 2 sniper teams. Both the Ratmen catapults, because they're the only thing left on the board to activate, fire into the large squad of skeleton warriors, and they're able to take out 4. The God statue at the beginning of turn 3 charges into the Storm Ogres. Before he attacks, he uses Desiccation and hits the Storm Ogres with 1 hit at AP4 with 3 damage. They fail the armor save, and one of the Storm Ogres is turned into a dry husk. The God statue then attacks and does an additional 4 wounds, killing the second Storm Ogre and knocking the one that remains down to 2 wounds. That Storm Ogre fights back, is able to score 1 wound on the God statue, but then fails his morale test and runs away. The Rat Ogres charge into the back of the Skeleton Warriors. With the dice not in their favor, they're only able to kill 6 with their massive number of attacks. The Skeleton Warriors fight back and are able to do 1 wound to the Rat Ogres, but then fail their morale test, and 4 more crumble. The Guardian statues charge into the squad of militia on the corner of the board. In their initial assault, they smash through 9 of the militia members. The last remaining militia member surprisingly is able to get through the armor and regeneration of the Guardian statue, putting on 1 wound, but then he fails his morale test and runs the heck away. The Royal Guardian squad with their leader charge into what's left of the Storm Veterans. Then they're able to easily take out the 3 rats. The last remaining unit of militia holds in their corner of the board.
This way.
The unit of mummies move behind the Rat Ogres. The Ratmen catapults fire at the Royal Guard and are able to take out 2 of them. The skeleton catapults fire into the Rat Ogres, and they're able to take the last 2 wounds off of the already wounded ogre. The Rat Ogres charge into the mummies, and they're able to kill off 5 of them with their crushing blows. The mummies attack back, and they're able to do 2 wounds to the Rat Ogres. Then the mummies proceed to pass their morale test. The god statue moves forward and fires off another desiccation spell at the far rat catapult. It hits, and they fail all of their saves, making one of the catapults crumble to pieces. The giant then rears back and smashes the other catapults with its attacks. So at that point, the mummified undead are just going to use nothing but hold actions until the end of turn number 4. At the end of the game, the final score, adding them up, the mummified undead were able to destroy more than half of the Ratmen squads, so that is 1 victory point. The Ratmen were unable to be in any table quarter uncontested, so they get no victory points there. And the mummified undead are in 3 table quarters uncontested, so final score will be 4 victory points to 0 for a mummified undead win. The Ratmen just bit off more than they can chew today. At the beginning of turn 4, I looked up and went, oh no, where did all my units go? But maybe when we go around for another pass in the future, the Ratmen class 102, we can go a little bit more in depth and be a little bit more sneaky. MVP, this game would be that god statue. I think he killed off 4 whole units by himself. This is what happens when I remember it can cast spells on itself. So that's it for today, everybody. Thanks for coming out here to the garage with me, braving the winter wonderland. I think we went down in temperature while I was recording this. Looks like our poll for next week says that we are going to have the Shadow Stalkers come out to play. So it'll be the Shadow Stalkers versus the Mummified Undead. I'm going to go ahead and set up a poll after this video goes live. Go ahead and check out the community page to vote for who you want to see coming to the table after the Shadow Stalkers. That'll be all today from us here in the garage. Remember to like and subscribe, share this with your friends, introduce them to the fun that is OPR gaming. I hope you all are staying warm out there. We'll see you next time.